success stories told by the people who lived them.
We're going to have some guests on this show that everybody knows, and we're going to have guests on this show that nobody knows yet.
One by one, Nick Hyder is adding hits to the Hitstreak.
Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. And folks, I've got an extra special treat for you. Joining me in the Hit Lab today, he needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyways. And so sit back and relax because we're going to be here for a minute, folks. Check it out. He is the Fractional Chief Marketing Officer, all right, in the business today. He's actually one of the most successful CMOs in the country. You've seen him in Forbes magazine, Entrepreneur magazine, NBC, Fox, ABC, with media mogul Gary Vee and his mentor, David Meltzer. Folks, he is a well-known fractional chief marketing officer with 15 years of experience successfully managing $1.9 billion. Folks, that's with a B, in products for Fortune 500 brands, Inc. 5000 companies, and even unicorn startups. Folks, he's a speaker. You've seen him on many stages, all the stages. He's a consultant. Help me welcome Nick Cavuoto. How we doing, baby?
What's up, dude? I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me here.
Well, that was one of my best intros, I think. That was awesome.
That was pretty dope, dude. I think I'm going to have to clip that and steal it.
I love it. I love it, man. Well, that's fantastic. Well, dude, I know you're kind of new to town. You're Nashvilleian now, right?
Yeah, man. We're not leaving either. This place is best kept secret. A lot of people know about it, but they don't know how good it is.
What's so good about it? What's so good about it?
The people, dude. The people are special, and we've had unique experiences that have allowed us to really understand the culture and the community behind Nashville and what it represents. And I'll tell you, no city loves like Nashville, man.
That's
no
right.
Joke.
That's a hit right there.
You're gonna have to hit that a lot today.
Oh, dude, I'm ready. I'm ready, and we're all ready, and it is going to be going off like crazy. So you might set the record for hits in an episode.
Come on, man, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, so I got to get right to the main question, because when I introduced you, you're managing $1.9 billion. How in the world did you end up managing $1.9 billion?
Being the most trusted person in the room. That's it, man. That's the interesting thing about when you're a conduit of what I believe is hope. Any company that I'm working for is looking for opportunity to grow, looking for opportunity to make a difference. Like my mentor, David Meltzer, says, make a lot of money, help a lot of people, have a lot of fun. And so when you're the person who has the confidence and, may I say, the valor, that you're willing to go out there and do it and actually help people achieve the things that they want, I'm throw me on the front line. I'll be the tip of the spear and we'll make it happen. And I think hope is highly underrated when it comes to producing results in a business.
Hope at the end of the day is everything. We hope we provide for our families. We hope our kids are healthy. We hope our parents live a long time. Hope is everything.
Absolutely, man.
At the end of the day. And
I will say one of the things behind how I managed that was favor. I feel like God has had a unique calling on my life. And so I take that really seriously, that wherever I'm positioned, that I'm perfectly positioned for that moment in order to do something great. So I take those opportunities very seriously. And in addition, I treat them with exceptional confidence because I know it's backing me, dude. I know why I'm there and what I'm meant to do. And so that confidence of going yeah, I'm going to find a way. Where most people quit, that's just where I get started. I'm oh no, man, I'm just going to keep on rocking. Let's keep on going. Let's keep making it happen. And that's the heartbeat behind what I do. So there is a competence, right? And confidence. When those two things come together, that's how you manage $1.9 billion worth of stuff.
Wow. Had to pause taking notes real quick, right? Competence and confidence, where they collide. There was we like to say around here a lot too that, everybody gets to that place, that choice they got to make where commitment and convenience collide. And, you know what I'm saying? And commitment has the win right there. So I actually like that a lot. Competence and confidence collide. And that's where you live.
That's it, man.
I love it. Let's talk about confidence just for a second. Just because that's something that we've been talking about here in house a lot.
Yeah.
And, I was explaining it to some of the team literally yesterday. And it's guys, your confidence at the end of the day is just a reflection of your belief in yourself.
That's right.
If you just dumb it down to something extremely simple. And so, confident people are often looked at as narcissists, and they're mistaken as narcissists or selfish or whatever else. And maybe they just believe in themselves a lot. And how can that be a bad thing?
Well, it can't. And I think that's the benefit, like typically everything's spiritual as far as spiritual principles. My dad was a drug dealer who found Jesus. So like I do raw Jesus, savage Jesus, like that's where I came from. So I understand the disparity between like the humble, hard beginnings and then like having an interruption in your life that changes everything. And again, it comes back to the idea that like the thing that fuels you, I just think a lot of people aren't vocal about what makes them confident. I don't judge myself. So I can sit in front of any conversation, any crowd, any living room and say like, well, the reason why I have audacious confidence is because I believe and I have the evidence to show that in every hard moment in my life that God was always there with me. So I don't have to question if I'm alone. I don't have to question if it's going to be a hard situation. I can lean into it with the assurance of literally the entire planet and everything that's holy and going like, well, God hasn't found me before.
That's right.
What is the power of asking for help? A lot of people think, well, I only can ask for help from someone.
Right.
I'm like, no, this is an above, down, inside out game where like I have all of heaven that I have accessibility to, where I can call in any moment to be able to get through a hard situation. Man, that's served me through my whole life. And I've been through some stuff.
It's so hard to understand that those hard times are actually the gift, because what you learn from those, like that's where you realize the gift.
1,000%.
You know what I mean? So, man, well, we're off to a great start today, folks. Let me tell you. So you moved to Nashville in June of 22.
Yeah.
And there was something that happened in Nashville that actually affected all of the United States, right? So where do your kids go to school?
Yeah, they go to the Covenant School here in Nashville. Absolutely beautiful, incredible place, man. So yeah, and back in March, we, went through that tragedy and unique circumstance of life, right? And, I feel called to share what hope and healing and redemption looks like being on the opposite side. And it's a critical part of our story now,
Yeah.
My kids are resilient as all get out, man. I'm so proud of them. And I tell them, you should be proud of yourself for everything that you're allowing to integrate through you and the lessons learned.
Absolutely. It's a lot of times when you're talking to somebody about something that happened in their life, a lot of times you can say, I understand, I can sympathize, I can relate. And as a parent, I can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't. So like I really don't even have a legitimate opinion on anything about that thing that happened that day because I can't even imagine what somebody like you might have felt, or even somebody that was even affected, at a greater level. You know what I mean? So, I appreciate you, everything you've done and bringing light on that. And you made some comments before we started recording that it's, when you go through it, it's not a political thing.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not a taboo subject and it's not a political subject. I think at the end of the day, it's a human conversation, because at like the final finish line of this, you have people who are dealing with suffering and it's on every angle of the circumstance. You have someone who has lost hope and they feel like the best way in order to get the world's attention and to seek the validation or to prove a point or whatever it may be is to do something that's this tragic.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you have the ripple effects of that. And this is what taught me so much about fatherhood.
Okay.
Like I thought a lot about fatherhood was doing the right thing and showing up and being a provider. Dude, when I really inspected the story, and I go to my faith basis on this too, of like when I inspect the story of Jesus and I look at Jesus and I go like, where were his moments of deepest struggle? Where were his moments of like the hardest things that he was going through, his deepest suffering? He was always communicating to his Father. So interesting, whether it was in the Garden of Gethsemane of where he had to go face his enemy, or whether it was hanging on the cross, he had a conversation with his dad. And I've realized fatherhood is so much about providing context to suffering. And that's something that like we just don't think about every day, but it's like maybe the father relationship with the children is to bring context, to bring understanding, and actually to bring healing to the suffering that we face.
Right.
And so that's how I've showed up for my kids. Yes, the provider and all those things, all the 3D things, all the things we got to do on a daily basis exist. But now it's the relationship with suffering. And I've gone through a lot, man. Like this is not, my wife's father was murdered when she was 3 years old. I have such a unique perspective on this situation because of, by proxy, what I've been exposed to.
Yeah.
I've dealt with the sleepless nights. I've dealt with the pain of my wife going through not having a dad. it's brought so much context. I did 100 therapy sessions in a year. I did a sabbatical. What was that, in 2021? And so leaning into this, I stopped therapy 2 weeks before this situation happened.
Wow.
So isn't it so interesting? I can look back and say, confidence, God prepared me for that moment.
Yeah.
To be somebody who could stand there like a lightning rod and understand the situation. And I'll give you a little formula that I'm teaching people about that I think is really meaningful, and it's helping provide context to suffering. In our lives, we're going to have life events that happen. Mm-hmm. And those life events are going to happen no matter what, right? Most people attach their emotion immediately after the life event. And that's what I call the carousel of despair.
Right.
Because the pendulum of your emotions, they're fluid. They're not concrete. They're not anchored. And so what happens is the life event, takes place. Then you develop a feeling about that life event, and then you attach a belief. So what happens is you're like, that thing happened, and I'm associating a feeling, which is associating a neural pathway that says that's good or bad.
Yeah.
And so let's say that's bad. Well, now my belief is the world's bad. What do I want? I need to go out, move out to Leaper's Fork and, buy 25 acres and never see a human being again because I'm afraid?
Right.
That can't be the equation.
Correct.
So the way that I view it is by swapping those last two pieces. Life events will happen. Suffering is guaranteed. How we do with it, that's a choice, how we deal with it. So the life event will happen. What we need is an anchor. We need our belief system to be the thing in the middle that then determines the emotional state that we live in, or our feelings. In life, criticism, comparison, and judgment is always the number one way to live in ego-based consciousness.
Right.
The way that we can find our spiritual truth is by living by virtues, right? And inspecting, like, what are our virtues? Truth, honesty, integrity. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that I live by. So that's why I just show up and tell the truth. That's right. It's the most important quality of doing anything. Just tell the damn truth. So that's what I viewed in my life. And that's why I'm willing to have these conversations, is because, like, it's not going to get solved on either spectrum other than how does a human being deal with suffering? And that goes back to the fractal of even spirituality as a whole.
I've told this on here multiple times. A buddy of mine, big time sports agent Hunter Bledsoe, wears a bracelet on his wrist that says "Into the Storm," and I asked him, "What does that mean?" And he said, "Man, my buddies, it's a company they got, and it's based on the cattle and bison." He said, cattle run away from the storm, bison run into it. He's like, "Who do you think spends the least amount of time in the storm?" And I was like, he's like, "The bison do, because they run through it."
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? So they're running the opposite direction of it. So they're actually in the storm for the least amount of time. And that's basically kind of what you're, when you get through, when life throws these things at you, we say a lot, you change your beliefs by getting new information. Mm-hmm. Well, you got new information, right? And it made you change your beliefs on certain things, or alter your beliefs, but by facing those circumstances that come your way, you can get through them quicker rather than hiding from them or running from them, because they're always there, right?
Always there. Yeah. Yeah. And that's, a lot of people might inspect my story and how I've shown up, like after this tragedy, and going like, this dude, he's in pain and denial. And I'm like, no. 100 therapy sessions before this. Like, I worked out all the stuff. Yeah. I've lived it not only in my life, but through proxy of what my wife's experienced. I truly believe that God prepared me for this moment. Like, I've been preparing for it for my whole life. So I got a decision to make to stand and anchor in my belief. And when I got that phone call that said, "Hey, there's a shooting at the Covenant School," my physiology immediately, I remember I was sitting on a Zoom call with like a business owner in Canada. I slapped the laptop down. I ran out the door, and I'm booking it down the hallway in my office, and I'm slamming on the elevator button to try to get down there as quickly as possible. That 30 seconds, my body was in full flight or fight. Like, I was in full out go mode. And then my wife said, "I hope our babies are okay." Yeah. And I said, "You listen to me right now. I know that our kids are fine." And I anchored, boom, in that moment. Yeah. That training, that Taoist monk who I met with a year before, and met with this dude, and I was just like, on the quest of figuring out, like, how can I find the way for spirituality to exist and being the solution to my suffering? He gave me that equation to life, and it absolutely changed everything. And so in that moment, I made a decision, and I flipped the conversation, and I leaned into that belief, which anchored me to something that was concrete. And I've been able to show up for friends of ours and families and, have conversations like this because I'm rooted in the belief. And that's a game changer. If people can get this, the power of this, it'll change your life.
I want to thank all of our loyal fans that spread across all 50 states and 14 different countries. It's absolutely amazing. Folks, help us keep spreading the word, right? Share your favorite episodes with friends and make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the Hitstreak on all digital platforms. Thanks again, and we look forward to more. You know, it's sad. You know, some people, their perspective is when somebody goes out and is brave enough to talk about it, they're going to try and turn it into villainize that in some way. But, you know, again, it's, I can't imagine, you know, what something like that would have been like. And just like you said, you know, God works in mysterious ways and, you know, you're on the other side of it now, and it's changed you, and now you can start to see, not that nobody's glad about anything that happened. It's a tragedy, but there's blessings on the other side of that. There's lessons learned and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and I just tell people, you know, look back in your life. You probably had a lot of hard stuff that's happened, you know, and if you found redemption, that's the hardest part about stories is most people tell a story and they'll be like, hey, so this thing happened, and then like, this is what I've done about it, but there's no redemption.
Right.
It's like Jesus came and he died. Nothing else happened.
Yeah.
It wouldn't exist.
That's right.
So most people just need to find a way to attach redemption to the story. Dr. Jordan Peterson says, if it lasts longer than 18 months, it's something that you've got to seek professional help on getting resolved. For me, it lasted, you know, like 18 days. Why? Because I had done the work previous. It doesn't make me different or better than anybody or anything. It's just that I had gone through and I had done the work so that I could provide context in giving people hope of what it looks like on the other side. So for me, my kids are more resilient. My kids will be stronger leaders because of it. They've overcome the fear of death.
Right.
At 5 and 7 years old. What are they going to go do?
Right. Right.
A lot more than I ever did.
Right.
Right. Like, so I count it as a blessing. And of course, there's so many moments for you to like, wish this never happened. The reality is I'm not Madonna. I can't turn back time. So, so like, I can't change the past, but I can change right now.
Right.
I can make a decision to do life different. I can make a decision to stand up confidently with my shoulders back and look life in the face and say like, we're going to do this different. We're going to charge up this hill. We're going to go up this mountain. We're going to choose to be resilient. And I said this to you early on, but the only thing better than being safe is being brave.
That's right.
And so I believe that my kids will be champions of not only themselves, but the story that they live of overcoming their greatest fears, of finding bravery in the hardest moments. And that's the mantra that we're going to live by.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Man, that's awesome. There's one of the bravest things I've ever seen is earlier this year. My wife and I lost a friend. It was a very, very close and dear friend of my wife. I knew this person through my wife, and lost her and her mom. You know, the young lady we lost was a mother to a child under the age of 10, and the mother of our friend stood up at her funeral, and it was one of the bravest things I've ever heard. She basically got up there with all the confidence in the world, and she said, you know, suddenly, not too long ago, I lost my husband. And then suddenly I lost my daughter. And she looked out at her, at the father of her grandson and said, we're going to get through this. And she said, and I would like to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus for trusting me enough to handle my suddenlies. And I was like, holy cow.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's life. Slow. And then suddenly something happens, and then we have to stabilize and steady the storm. And that's how life works, man.
Yeah.
And I guess my hope, man, is that people just give opportunity. You know, I love what Gandhi says. It's a really good quote. But he says, you know, I love your Jesus, but I struggle with your followers. You know, at the end of the day, like if people could just have hope in something, that there's something greater out there, as David, my mentor, says, you know, that loves you more than your mom does. There's some greater force out there. If people can just open up their heart just a little bit, just 1%, to say maybe there is something out there that's different. I think people are all led back to the creator and getting to this place of like just allowing God access in your life to help you. You know, out of all people, Jim Carrey says spirituality exists to end suffering. That is like the most true statement I've ever heard. And so when I see people in pain and I know what the promise is, I'm like, listen, all we have to do is just one step in the right direction. Just allow 1% of opportunity for something greater to change your life. Yeah.
Well, that was awesome, dude. Thank you for again, and we're big David fans around here too, right?
Yeah.
And I've actually never met him, so I'll probably hit you up.
Oh,
for
dude,
that.
I'd love to introduce you, man. Yeah,
Absolutely.
we can make that happen easily.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's get to some of the stuff you guys got that you got going on and everything else.
Yeah, man.
So, like, dude, you've been on some of the biggest and baddest stages. You're a TED speaker too. I should have said that when I introduced
Yeah, no,
you.
it's all good, man.
So that was recent, right?
Yeah, August 26th.
Was that your first one?
First one, man? Yeah. You know, it's funny when I was in ministry, because that's where I started. You know, I was a college dropout at 19. My dad was a drug dealer who found Jesus. My dad's still in ministry to this day. It's been 40 years. But when I hit my hardest moment, he was like, you know, I said, Dad, what do I do? Dropped out of college for the second time, 1.6 GPA. And I was like, I don't know where to go from here. He said, you need to learn how to serve. So I was like, all right, listen, old man, I know you got this figured out because you figured it out for your life. And my dad's still my spiritual mentor to this day. He's an incredible human. And so I just showed up and I started interning at a church. And there's 1,000 people who went there every weekend and started to build something meaningful. And I worked there for about 7 years, and we built it from 1,000 to 10,000 people every weekend.
Wow.
And I did everything behind the scenes. I was number 2 in the organization, started as an intern, got up to number 2 in the organization. And, you know, we were running with like Life Church, Craig Rochelle, Stephen Furtick. Like that was our whole crowd.
Yeah.
And one of the first 5 churches that were in publishing live streaming for church. So helped Life Church pioneer that. So there's some really cool stuff like in the, you know, before entrepreneur days. But the thing that was interesting was I never got asked to speak one time.
Really?
Yep. And my dad struggled with communicating. My dad, being a drug dealer, he started when he was 13.
Okay.
So he dropped out of school in 8th grade. And so he struggled with the whole communication thing because he didn't want people to misunderstand him. He didn't want people to think that he was uneducated, like all of those things. And so, like, you know, sometimes we have to battle, you know, the things that our father faced. And if they were overcome, we might still face them with a less degree. But if they weren't fully overcome, then we're going to face them with the full degree.
Right.
And so for me, watching my dad growing up, and he's an amazing communicator, but always felt like he had to read off the script. But when he'd throw the script to the side, homeboy, like, man, people are taking off their shoes and throwing them at him. I mean, he really could communicate with such conviction and clarity and power. But he had to get off the script. Like he had to lean on something deeper within him.
Sure.
And so I learned that skill. You know, I had that discernment at a really young age, and I've been around public communicators since I was 3 years old. So when people go like, dude, how do you like figure out how to communicate and all this stuff? I'm like, dude, I was listening to Bishop Jakes when I was 19 in an empty church because I wasn't getting asked to speak, finding his cadence and his rhythm and finding the way that he communicated, like putting in the reps when no one was looking. And so now that it's popping, right? It's like the overnight success of getting on stages and doing stuff. And I don't even care. I'm like, I don't need a stage. I'm going to turn that into a living room anyway. Like I'm going to pull that thing down to be on the level with people.
That's right.
And it's just like I'm bringing the opposite energy to the old guard. So people love that part of the communication pattern. But for me, I had to get over that thing of like, well, I never got asked to speak, so I must not have a gift of communication. You imagine if I believe that lie? And how many other people are believing that lie?
Right.
And I think that's the healing that's coming to the world now, is people are getting healed in their throat so they can get up and speak. You know what my dad told me? It's so powerful, man. I said, Dad, I just feel called to do this more. And he said, Nick, you're an oracle for God. Just open your mouth. That absolutely changed the game for me.
Absolutely.
Talk about confidence and assurance. Sometimes you got to hinge on someone else's belief when you don't have it.
Oh man, absolutely. I know that's for me, that's been something that's been huge at my home, having that confidence that my family has in me. Changed, you know, before I had my start of my transformation, I didn't have that confidence from my wife. You know, I totally had to earn it. And you know, the communication piece, you know, we've studied that a lot, just because, you know, I've maybe you can tell me one, but I haven't found one problem in the history of all mankind where they look back and they're like, they communicated too well and it caused that problem.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yep.
So, and that's the most effective marketing is the most clearly communicated message.
Yep. And that is to tell the truth.
All right. So let's find Nick Cavuoto's definition of marketing. We talk about it a ton, right? So what is your definition of marketing?
Understanding why people buy things.
Understanding. Ooh, I like that. Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna borrow that. I've always said it's a contest for everybody's attention and an attempt to gain their trust.
Yeah,
right?
That's good. I like that too, man.
What'd you say it was? Understanding
About why people buy things.
why people buy things. That's good.
The reason why I'm so good at marketing is because I understand people.
Yeah, I mean, there's a totally an aura. I was going to ask you, like, you've definitely got a level of confidence that everybody can feel when you're in the room. You know, I mean, it's actually it's contagious and it's kind of awesome. You know what I'm saying? If I'm being totally honest. So, and that's something that a lot of the greatest leaders have. That they make everybody around them better. Where did you start to find your confidence? Because I think this is a great story. You said you had less than a 2.0 GPA in school, right? And you were at rock bottom, and you fed your faith, and that's how you started to get here today.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people out there. I mean, gosh, I was 30 something years old and still lost and trying to figure out I used to feel weak by asking for that help from the Lord. Like, I'm supposed to figure this out. And I didn't know that the strength that I needed and that I knew He wanted me to find was just by and reflected through Him.
Yeah. Well, that's the greatest lie. I had to do it on my own. I mean, number one.
It's pretty selfish too when you think about it.
Absolutely. Because if I asked you for help, if I really need something, dude, and I hit you up and I was like, bro, I need help. What would you tell me? No?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. What good father would do the same to his kids?
Right.
So the relationship, again, is when we understand the context of, like, in our hardest moments, it's when it's most responsible and appropriate for us to simply ask for help.
Yeah.
And David talks about it all the time. He's like, that's how when he lost $100 million in 2008, the way he got it back was by literally he was brokering opportunities between people, saying, hey, do you know anybody who needs this? And hey, can you help me with this? Like, hey, do you know anyone who? That statement literally made him $100 million.
Wow.
Faster than he lost it. So I've really started understanding this on a deeper level because I've really studied it. And I understand that has a lot to do with intention. When you know what you want, which most people don't, which is why asking for help is hard, because we get to the false target.
Yeah.
So then it's like, well, I want money. It's like, well, no, the law of attraction suggests that you don't want money because money's not real. It's just a transfer of energy or trust. So when we get behind the thing, then we say, well, what are the emotional states that we want? What is money? What do you think it's going to provide to you?
Right.
And that may be success or recognition or, it might provide freedom, right? So, well, if I can embody those emotions before I ask for it, I'll get it 100 times faster. So that changes the game. Why? Because spirituality operates in reverse of the material plane. Everything that Jesus did, think about it. Jesus was the most influential person to ever walk on the face of the earth, and he washed the feet of his followers.
Yeah.
Find me one Instagram influencer who does the same thing.
Right.
You'll never find it.
Right.
So everything that's spiritual exists in opposition of what we think it should be in our carnal, natural mind. So when you think about it, right? If I want money, Asian proverb is, if you chase two rabbits, you catch none. You cannot attract what you chase. So what we do is we attract to ourselves and we become the emotional state of the things that we want. And then very quickly, the money's there, and the money's not even the target.
Yeah.
Money is the consequence of doing what you love well.
That's right.
Right?
Money's the outcome, not the objective.
Absolutely, man. 100%. And so when I release the outcome and I show up and I serve, in every season of my life of where the hardest things have happened, it's always come back down to serving. Serving starts by hitting the massive receive button, which is figuring out what other people need and asking how you can be a part of solving the solution.
That's right. That's right.
So
what do you can't help somebody that don't know where they're going?
Absolutely not. So number one is intention, and that's based on what do you want? And this is what David taught me. It's been so transformational in my life. Number two is who can you help and who can help you? So these are the 5 levels of intention that David teaches. And if you hit him up, I think he's got like a PDF on it and you can like do it every day. Number 3 is all about prioritization. So it's like, once you know what you want, who you can help, then you've got to prioritize. That's the how.
Yeah.
Then after you prioritize, then you get it done right away. Eliminate the excuses and do it. And then number 5 is know your why. You never have to ask yourself the question of why am I here? Or like, why do I want to go achieve or do this thing? You never have to ask yourself the question why when you start with those 4 things first.
It's hard to find out how if you don't know why.
And if you don't know what, when you don't know where you're going, any road will do.
Yeah.
And that's where I think people are on like the carousel of despair. It's such a distraction. It's a delay and a distraction. And that's what like the enemy of our soul does, delay and distract. Can't stop us.
Yeah.
So just delays and distracts us.
Man, I was having a conversation with a buddy the other night, and this is a guy that I grew up with, that literally was basically raised in the same house I was.
Yeah, man.
And and we're in two totally different places in life. And and he was telling me that he was proud of me, and he's like, I should be be doing what you're doing and be where you're at, and I'm not. And we talked about it, and what it's just like when we were recruiting new business owners to help them launch and everything else. People would sit there and tell me their limits, right? And nobody gave themselves their limits except for themselves.
Yeah, that's
and,
right.
and then they would sit there and fight me over them. They would defend their limits.
Yep.
And it took me so long to figure out what to do with that. And honestly, it was one day I was going somewhere, I can't remember, and I was just doing like everybody else does. I pulled out my phone and I opened up the GPS and I typed in the address. And then it told me the route we were going. It told me when I was going to arrive, when I needed to leave. It told me there was some construction and stuff to happen, and it gave me a detour, and it gave me a new time and a new route. And I was just like, well, why am I not living this way? You know what I mean? It started out with that end destination, with that target. And then somebody said something to me right around that same time, and they asked me a question like, what's the biggest difference between a little leaguer and a big leaguer? I'm like, well, if they're a pitcher, the little leaguer's just trying to hit that wall, and the big leaguer's trying to hit the smallest piece of that wall. So it's the people that are the best at anything are the one that can hit the smallest targets.
Wow. That's powerful. How did you learn that?
It was just by studying what was actually happening and while we were doing it. And honestly, just through helping others, because I'm trying to help them solve their problems and get them out of their own way. The biggest thing is, people would say, and it was something that Bradley, one of the first conversations we had, he's really good at asking fun questions in the beginning. And he was like, what do you want? Where are you going, Hyder? And I told him some stuff. And at the time, my wife had a vision board on the wall, and you could see it behind me. And he was like, well, what's that back there? And I was like, well, that's the house that she wants. He was like, that exact house? I'm like, well, one kind of like it. He goes, no, it needs to be the exact one. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He said, bro, you need to know what wall the TV is going to be on, what color the furniture is, and where you're going to be sitting in it, because that's the only way you're ever going to get it. And I was like, he was like, so you got to dial down your goals. If you want a jet, then dude, you got to go all the way down to what logo's on the leather seats.
Yo, come on. It's truth. It's truth. Yeah.
So, you hear a lot about manifestation and prayer and meditation and all those things. They're all very similar.
Yeah. Oh, they are. They're all very similar. And, it goes back to a simple principle of without vision, the people perish. Death is guaranteed when you don't have vision. And I'm not talking about outcome. I'm talking about vision.
That's right.
That's vision.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. The Hitstreak is powered by our partners at HitLab Creative Studios. Whether it's launching your brand new podcast, rebranding your current podcast, or taking advantage of any of their other content packages specifically for your social media needs, the HitLab is a one-stop shop for you. Visit hitlabstudio.com for more. Well, so everybody is like, all right, I'm in. I believe everything that you're saying. Now we got to talk about the application, because honestly, that's where everybody got lost. I could get everybody fired up and be like, yes, I love it. And quite honestly, I could have them believing they could conquer the world sitting in the office with me.
Yep.
But, let's say we went 2 hours in that conversation. Well, the science says they only understood or took with them maybe 50% of what we talked about. And they're going home, whether it be to parents, close friends, spouse, or whatever, those people are going to be, that's great. And they ask them questions that immediately they can't answer. And then that's when those people that are there to protect them start to say, well, are you sure about this? And all of a sudden that doubt and those limits start to pop back up again, So for me, the thing that changed my wife and I's story. So dude, I grew up, I won a lot, in sports especially. I made good grades.
Yeah.
I was on 2 different scholarships in college, played professional baseball for 6 years, and didn't get let go. I quit on my own terms. And I finished on my own terms. I didn't quit.
That's right.
I finished.
Yep.
And and then I was lost for about 15 years, and I hated to read. All right, because every time I'd had a book, I was told I had to read it. So I didn't like to read. And then I'm trying to figure stuff out. I'm so low and so at rock bottom that I finally, somebody said, hey man, just just try this book. What do you got to lose? And at the time, I was still cutting my own grass. So that was my time where I could like learn.
Yeah.
You know, that no distractions.
Yeah.
So I've got the headphones in and I'm cutting the grass on my little snapper, just like Forrest Gump had.
Yes, sir.
And I'm cutting the grass, and I've got the 10X book by Grant Cardone in there.
Wow.
And he says, dude, you have a car wreck. Whose fault is it? And he's like, what's yours? You get rear-ended, it's your fault. You could have left 5 seconds earlier, 5 seconds later. By owning the responsibility, you have the ability to fix it.
That's right. 100%.
To solve the problems. And the second book I read was was it Think Grow Rich? Anyways, the second book was The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale.
Yep.
It's like a 45-minute audio book. It's a horrible listen because it's recorded 100 years ago.
Before. Yeah.
But you know the index card exercise where you write 10 of the easiest things that you can do 30 days in a row.
That's right.
30 goals or 10 goals, 30 days in a row. And if you screw up, you rip up a new card and write a new one. So first of all, the first thing I figured out by doing that exercise, is I didn't know how to write goals that are adequate to what we're trying to accomplish. Because I'm like, instead of just saying drink a glass of water, I was going to drink 5 liters. So.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
Or 5 gallons,
all
you know?
Nothing. Yeah.
And then it was like, I'm going to work out 47 times a day. And I'm ripping up cards left and right. And so I started dialing in the goals to get further and further along. You know, it was like, you know, was I grateful that I woke up was like the first thing that I did. Did I read my list to know what I needed to do? You know, my last task of the day, the 10th thing was just read my card, make sure I did everything. Like I started doing things that I could do if I was sick in bed, couldn't move, whatever. Did I tell my wife I loved her? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, but it was on the 16th time we were ripping up that card that my wife looked at each other and we were like, we're the problem.
Wow.
It's us. And from there on, everything that we have today stems from that moment where we looked at each other and realized we were the problem.
That's right. And the solution.
That's right. And everybody that we work with today, I actually need to give Ben one over here to the side. He needs an index card. You need to do that. I'm telling you, it's life-changing.
Yeah, it'll change your life. There's no question. 1% better every day. And in 90 days, you can have a totally different life. And so for you, to that principle, it's like, what are the 10 things that, you know, and it also adjusts like the way that you're measuring and what you're thinking about. Because a lot of high performers, it's all or nothing. They're going all the way to the top and they're like, and I'm going to achieve all these things. And I just know like one of the most transformational things that I did was ask one of my mentors when I lived in Denver. I said like, hey, you know, like how can we support one another? And he's like, well, I feel like I need to get out and do some walks. And I was like, I could use that too. And we walked for 150 days in a row. I told him, I said, bro, you have taught me what no one else in my life has ever taught me, which is the power of consistency. Because he showed up, he was 5 a.m. every day. And my deal was human behavior. You're always willing to do more for other people than you will for yourself.
Absolutely.
The question is who you're going to do it for. So when you take ultimate responsibility, then it goes into the serving frame of who am I doing this for? I showed up and did 150 days in a row in Denver at, 5,280, 5,280 feet in the middle of blizzards, in the middle of the winter. And I showed up and I did it because I was not going to leave Tony out there in the cold.
That's right.
And it changed my life. It taught me the power of consistency. And isn't it interesting that I do $500,000 in sales, like in that time period of what we're doing, just on coaching, consulting, and just doing what I love to do and just helping people. That's so right. It's really fascinating how all these things work. But there was a time in my life where I was like, man, I want to have the consistency that I know from a high performing perspective will produce results. And then isn't it interesting that like from that intention, God brought someone in my life who taught me that.
Wow. That's awesome. That's so good. Yeah. I mean, the momentum that through everybody has momentum. Yeah. One way everybody has consistency. It may be consistently inconsistent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it exists. Yeah.
So, for us, it was like, at the end of the day, if somebody's not where they want to be or on track, they just got momentum going in the wrong direction. And we got to figure out how to change the direction of that.
You just flip the script.
That's awesome. Well, let's get to, the application of, of all that, Chief Marketing Officer. It's a very high up and very important person in any business. But let's understand you're a fractional CMO, right? So let's talk about the difference between like just a regular CMO versus a fractional CMO.
Regular CMO is paid a lot of money. They have typically a lifespan in an organization of 2 years. It has the most turnover in any executive position in like the whole country.
I didn't know that. Why is that?
I think it has to do with opportunity. It has to do with results. I think other chief roles can lead from a spreadsheet. And when you're CMO, the world's changing so quick. Integration of AI, there's all these new things. You can't sit steady in your chair. You can't be the type of person who's like, I'm just going to show up like a CFO and I'm just going to read off the sheet and just create marginal shifts. There's too much happening. So you have to find a way to stay relevant and follow the trends, implement the trends, have a great foundation. But like, it's almost like staging a house every week. Like, imagine the amount of work that would be required to do that.
That's right.
Flipping it and staging it every week. That's a lot, but that's how it is being a CMO. So what I've learned is just through deductive reasoning to figure out the things that actually make the biggest difference.
Got it.
Which any CMO on the planet needs to measure three things primarily, which is traffic. How many people are engaging, or how much traffic are you getting to your assets? It's not just website traffic, it's engagements, it's views, it's all that stuff. The second thing are leads. So if you're selling something, then you need to have lead volume. And the third thing is sales. I use fractional CMO because it makes the most amount of sense with what I do. But the problem I solve is money. I am really good at making people a shit ton of money, period. So revenue is the actual thing that I'm solving. That's what I've always been really good at solving. And it comes through the perspective of advising. That's why the fractional CMO works, is because I can spend a marginal amount of time with multiple different companies and just give advisement to the team. So I solve a leadership issue in the organization, and I'm also solving a revenue challenge. But I can get it so fast, and I have the ability to win people over. So the team wants to do well. And when I'm in a leadership position, that's what they actually want.
Yeah.
They already have all the people clicking all the buttons. They're just like, usually the CEO is going, man, I'm having to manage all this crap and I can't keep up with it. The CFO is like, I don't know anything about marketing. So there's this massive gap. So they hire the marketing gal or guy. They have him do it. They can't get the results to where they need to be, because usually they're measuring clicks and impressions and that's it. They don't understand how it actually ties into the bigger picture.
Right.
So I'm a marketing and branding person who is built in a salesperson's body. Like, I have the ability to do this whole sacred salesman thing of where I can enroll people into ethically what I believe is good for them. So that happens in ministry. That's happened in business. That happens everywhere. It happens in team leadership. But at the end of the day, I have one KPI. I measure more, but the primary one is ROI, and that's it.
At the end of the day, that is the point of business, isn't it?
Dude, yeah, we're solving a problem for a profit. It's so simple. And most people just get in their own way and they don't understand how to get to the actual issue and to solve it. But I was 26, 2 years out of ministry, sitting at a boardroom table with a Fortune 500 executive who's like, now tell me, young man, how does this social media stuff work?
Yeah.
I was the kid who knew how to work the remote. But that's where opportunity came. And those are the problems I ended up solving. And so that's the fractional role. It's a fraction of the time. But I guarantee people that they're going to get a 2 to 5x return on their investment in me in less than 90 days. Wow. If they don't, I'll fire myself.
Got it.
Which is crazy.
Absolutely.
But we crush it.
Absolutely. How do you, let's unpack that a little more, right? So, you've got the chief marketing in the title, but marketing does lead to revenue, right? Yeah. So that's why the revenue is the major indicator that you're looking for.
That's right.
Right. And people go into business to trade a good or a service, right? For money. And money's everywhere. It's in everybody's pockets. You just got to figure out how to get them to get it out and give it to you.
Absolutely.
All right. So, what were some of the biggest obstacles you overcame in the beginning and biggest lessons learned to get to where you're at today? And you're probably, what do you foresee like the next lessons you're going to learn?
Yeah, specifically in marketing,
I mean, it's all together. So it's however you want to answer it, man. There's going to be gold in it. But yeah, I mean, like the marketing is something like, I think marketing is one of the most loosely coined words on planet Earth today. As a matter of fact, 15 years ago, everybody was like sales and marketing in their email signature. It was both, and I'm like, well, one leads to the next, and why isn't it backwards? Why isn't it marketing and sales? Because that's how the order in which it goes.
That is the order, 100%. That's why I love the concept of being a revenue consultant, and I've started switching that a little bit. Like depending upon who I'm talking to, I'll ask people. I'm like, they'll meet me, and I always say like, "What's cracking? How's life?" Because I just keep it rapport building and just spend time with them. And then the second question is, I'll ask them. I'll be like, "Are you left brained or right brained?" Because that determines whether I'm going to help the company or the person.
Got it.
So again, all the stuff that I do comes down to psychology and human behavior.
How many people know if they're left or right brained when you ask them?
Not a lot, but it's a good question because it gets them thinking immediately, right? So then they're like, "Oh, that's an interesting question. No one's ever asked me that before." And I go like, "Yeah." So the right brain's the explosive, creative, mind. The left brain is the analytical and numbers mind. So which one are you? And so if they say I'm right brained, I can talk to them about coaching or creativity or whatever. If they're left brained, then I can talk to them purely about analytics, numbers, and the proof that's behind it. So like I can hack someone in 2 seconds to figure out what direction I want to go. And then if it's a personal, a professional, or a company problem, or even a spiritual challenge, that's how I quantify people really quick.
The Hit Streak is powered by Team Hyder. Team Hyder has been serving you for 11 years and has racked up over 20 national and local awards for excellence in all areas. When it comes to finding the right health plan, we need to consider your family's needs and your family's budget. That's what we do to serve you. To look further and to book an appointment, visit teamhyder.com.
I believe that entrepreneurship is 100% the best form of spiritual development that anyone could ever experience in their life. You got to die on your sword 1,000 times. So when I meet entrepreneurs, I know, and I figured this out, this is crazy. Logically, they go like, Nick is an ace in a world where top grading is really necessary. Anytime the market tightens, you better get rid of B players and hire A players immediately.
Yeah.
So like my world's blowing up in that way right now because a lot of people are going like, we've got to figure this out because we're experiencing challenges right now.
I need you to say that again. When things get tight.
Yeah. What did I say?
You said you gotta hire, go
yeah.
after A game people and let the B players go, right? I mean, it's just like the playoffs in baseball and stuff like that, right? Which we're going through right now.
Totally, man. Yeah. You want me to literally say it again?
Absolutely.
All right. So when the market tightens, when things get tough, you've got to let go of your B players and you've got to hire A players. That's the way to win. And you never cut sales and marketing. Go read any book in 2008, 2009 about the financial crisis. All the companies that chose to pull back on sales and marketing are all the ones that failed miserably. You have to double down. You've got to become smarter on understanding the context of the customer. People get so confused. And so they prioritize the capital and they forget about the customer.
Yeah, there was in the world of in the insurance world, that was one of the biggest objections when working with our agents that we dealt with was, there's especially in the world of health insurance, there's a fourth quarter that's the biggest quarter by maybe 35-40% of revenue is done in the third quarter. That's the way the market is. So it's like, you got to market a lot. Then they're like, but so we should market as much in the slower months. I'm like, no, you got to market the most during the slower months. Like, and I used it, being in the hospitality industry for so long. When times were great, people drank. When times were bad, people drank more.
Facts, bro.
You know what I mean? So like, I would say we were able to tie those together. When you're working with the right brain and left brain, so I'm extremely right brain, but the further in business we've gone is the development I've made on the left side.
Yeah, naturally, yeah.
And what I've learned, right? So when you're helping people, do you start with the side that they are, or the side that they need to develop?
Yeah, it's funny, like, because the work that I do in marketing, typically I work with experts who are an expert in what they do, and they're the quickest one to raise their hand and go like, I've learned a lot about marketing, but I don't have competency. Like, I don't have unconscious competence in this. I could literally do marketing stuff in my sleep. I could lead a team in my sleep. There's just such precision around it, right? The smallest target, like you were talking about earlier. So I work with a lot of experts who know something and they're really good at something. It just happens not to be sales and marketing. And then I have a lot of people who come to me who are really good at sales and marketing who are like, hey, I struggled to like figure out a way to package my products, services, or whatever it may be in a way that represents them well, because you can't see the forest through the trees. It's hard to explain the box when you're in it.
Right.
And so so that happens, kind of in both ways. But I like to speak to the natural capabilities and abilities of the person, because I think that's where they're most comfortable in having a conversation. So like you and I would go like, I could be like, hey, so I could hack your DNA, and in less than 10 minutes, I could explain to you your life purpose, what stabilizes you. I could explain to you your values, your communication model, exactly what you're here to communicate to the world. I could do all that in 10 minutes.
Dude, so we got 10 minutes.
See what I mean?
We got 10 minutes.
That's the right brain. Now, the left brain person is going to be like, and what? So what?
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's cool, but what is that going to quantify to?
Right.
What does that mean? Where I go on discovery and exploration with people who are right brain and talk about the art. And so that's really, really unique, but it's all about the positioning of the individual. It's all about like where they're most comfortable and how they're hardwired. And this, I figured myself out, dude. After 100 therapy sessions, I took 80 personality tests trying to figure out like, what are the primary motivators behind what I do? Like, how can I show up as crisp and clean in the world based on the contribution that I want to make with infinite clarity? And so I went on the hunt. And through that process, what I discovered for myself and learning about me, now I use to help other people. Because I can figure someone out very quick. Yeah. And it's all based on energy. It's not an opinion. It's like, I am reading your epigenetics. I'm in your DNA.
Got it.
And this is what's coming through.
So some folks out there that may be saying, I'd like to explore that a little bit on my own. What are some questions that they could ask themselves, or what are some exercises that they could do when they're looking at the man in the mirror, the woman in the mirror?
I think the primary one is asking the question of like, am I fulfilled? Like, do I know with 100% clarity why I'm here?
Is that one of the most common points where people get stuck?
Most people are transitioning between two things. I meet people in the transition. I'm like that underground tunnel between two different roads. And that's where I meet people because they're suffering. And most go through it, especially entrepreneurs. They're lonely, they're isolated, and they're burnt out. And so they're just like, man, I just need a brother. I'm like, listen, I have scaled the gates of hell so many times. I've been down. I could close my eyes and put my hand on the wall, and I know exactly where I am. I've just been through it a bunch. I've had crazy success in business. I have crazy failures. I've gone through stuff with ministry. I mean, like so much that like I just know how to get people out of the middle. So a lot of people come to me when they're at the struggle of a new beginning. Like they're out of what's old or in the process of letting it go, and they're trying to get into something that's new. And I'm here to direct their energy. I'm like energetic air traffic control for people. And so I can point them in the right direction and help them get there. Like one of the guys I'm mentoring, Nick Lauer, he's here in Nashville, 19-year-old like entrepreneur, killing it. So for him and I, he's like, hey, dude, I would love your help, right? And let's see what we can build together. And so he went from having, like his most challenging month ever to his best month ever. We did it in 3 weeks.
Wow.
Just by getting him aligned and on the bullet train and having my energy behind him. And I learned that, dude. I ran multiple agencies. I had a $4 million marketing agency that was wildly successful. And that like I got so burnt out, I just couldn't do it anymore. My business partner stole $2 million from me. I mean, this happened in 2019. There's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely brutal. Best friend from high school, Then I built another agency like a couple years later because I couldn't figure it out. I'm on this quest. I'm on the search. I'm trying to figure out like why life is so hard. It should not be this hard.
Right.
Life should feel good. And most people just don't know what good feels like. So when I finally went to the depths of that and going like, God, I've got to figure this out for myself. I built another agency. We went from 0 to 125 clients in 4 months. And I was like, I don't want to do this. Why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah.
Finally, I had to understand the energetics behind how I was wired. I'm not here to do anything, dude. That's one of the things I figured. I'm not here to do anything. I'm here to see things. I'm a seer. And so all the things spoken over my life as a kid, I have a prophetic gifting and I have the ability. Dude, I've seen things that if I explain on the show, people are like, this dude's insane. I'd be like, no, you just haven't seen what I've seen. And so when I lean into those natural abilities, those spiritual gift sets, and I start leveraging those, like our buddy Rory says, I exploit my highest gifts into the service of other people. That's where the game starts shifting. But most people don't know what their gifts are.
Yeah.
I was lucky, man. I grew up in a Pentecostal, shake 'em down AG church where people are running around with swords and flags and all kinds of crazy stuff. But what they did right was edify the human, find the thing that made them unique, and find a way to use that in contribution to others. They abused it too. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
They absolutely abused it. But I found that out at a very young age. So I had to kind of go all the way. Life's a labyrinth, bro. You just go like in one door, you go all the way back around and come out the same door you went in. And so I've just gotten back to the natural place of who I am. And I just opened my hands. And I believe that I'm a conduit of heaven. In one hand, I have the ability to receive. In the other hand, I have the ability to give. So I can ask it any question, who needs help and how can I help you? And also be able to receive. But asking for help is what actually is the big red button that allows the receiving process to begin.
When one of the most common questions that I get asked when we're mentoring folks is, how do I find my confidence? Or more importantly, where do I find my confidence? And, like what you kind of just like what you just said, it's, well, when you truly have found your purpose, the confidence will be there.
And I think that's the reverse angle, right? On the whole concept of like reverse engineering, how spirituality works. I think your purpose finds you.
Yeah.
But most people are so busy trying to find it that they're like on the hunt. Remember, you chase 2 rabbits, you catch none. So what I do is I step back and I go like, I'll find freedom in the fog. I'll become the storm. I don't need to get out of it. I don't need to get through it. I'm just going to actually reverse the whole angle and become it.
Yeah.
And so that's brought a lot of solace to my life and a lot of peace to my life. And I think that's a primary thing. And when people like really practically, like how you figure out confidence is go back to when you were 8 to 12 years old and figure out what you like to do. For me, I love making movies. That's what I did. Skate videos and whatever else with my buddies. Like that's where it started.
I bet you're a good skater.
Dude, yeah, I was okay. I wasn't great, but it was fun. And the idea though was like, I loved creating this story in this thing. And like when I really dug into it, like the thing that I'm probably the best in the world at that I'll slowly move towards is being a screenwriter.
Okay.
Like that's it. Like being able to, but that's marketing, right? You're
Yeah.
telling the story, you're building the arc, you're doing the thing. And I think that's a big part of the communication model. And I think that's how it manifests in my life. I don't think it's necessarily through building a movie. I think it's like telling the greatest stories ever told in a way that resonates with people. I don't care about relevance. I don't care about like being the person who's the most popular. I give a crap about that stuff. I don't want to be famous. I want to be effective.
Let's go.
So for me, it's like, how can I do that in the best way? It's about resonance, to be the tuning fork that hits somebody right in the chest, that allows something to shake that inside of them they didn't even know was there.
That's right.
And allow that thing to break open.
That's right. It was, I think it was a soundbite of Pitbull, who is actually quite the thinker.
Yeah, dude. He's dope, dude.
You'd never know. And he was like, quit chasing stuff, and I was like, I chased my wife for like 7-8 years. And when I look back at what worked, it was like, instead of chasing her, I tried to attract her.
Yeah.
So I shifted the focus on to get the same result, but it was like, instead of going that way, I tried to draw them in instead of go out to go get them.
That's right.
Thing. So, and that was the big shift in our first insurance agency that took off in our marketing, was instead of chasing clients, we started attracting clients, What are some of the other most common points you see amongst the people that you've worked with and mentored and so on and so forth?
I think it always comes down to three things, especially in the mentorship. I think I've mentored over 500 entrepreneurs now, and I just have had width of experience. I was coaching people through divorce at 23, and my parents had never even gone through a divorce, just being in ministry, growing up in this stuff my whole life. But I think it always comes down to these three things: clarity, confidence, and conviction. I used to say it was certainty. I used to say it was, like they're looking for certainty and whatever. And I think that like when you have conviction, it wipes out a lot. That's where like I know like heaven's hope, like what's behind me.
Yeah.
I'm just convicted at my core.
Right.
You can't fake that.
Right.
So that eliminates all the imposter syndrome, all the bull crap. So the clarity has to do with basically recalibrating through those 5 intentions. I believe that's a really good way to do it. But some people need clarity on who they are. And so like, most people can tell you what they don't want, but they can't tell you what they do want.
Right.
And so the clarity piece though is like figuring out at your core, who are you? I think the confidence part has to do with like understanding like what you're here to do. Most people are conditioned to think they're here to do things. And a lot of people are here to do things, but there's a lot of people who aren't.
Right.
So I had to go through like the bumps in the road and all the challenges to figure out I'm not here to do anything. I'm here to see things. I'm here to push people's energy in the right direction. That was a core thing, but like you've got to go, trust me, to the depths of the earth to figure that out.
Right.
But I can help you get there easily. And that's the benefit, right? Is I've already done the journey. So now I know how to do it quicker. But then the bottom line is conviction. And I think conviction is so important. Like, again, you can't fake it. And you also don't have anything to hide from.
Right.
People ask me, how are you so audacious? How are you so confident? How do you have clarity and confidence equal conviction?
Right.
That's where I'm trying to get. That's a destination for me, is to be so on fire that like you can't shut me up.
That's the destination in the GPS, right?
That's
there.
it, baby. It's like, take me to conviction land. Ba-ba. Like that's it. So, but that's a combination of knowing personally what it is that you want, professionally, what's going to fulfill you. And then I think spiritually what God's called you to. That's the trifecta. Most people only have the personal or the professional. There are some people who only have the spiritual, and we see them probably on the land of digital media,
right,
where it's like they're trying to figure out the personal and the professional stuff. But I'm like, you know what? If those trifecta, those three things work together, that's where you go nuclear.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's a lot of folks have a lot of walls up, a lot of things to break through, and at the end of the day, I know I never broke through any of them. They did. They took them down for me. It was my job to not try to bust through. It was to get them to just take them down for me, so we could actually figure out, their why and work on that how. What like you're here for. So that was like when we were recruiting folks, they would always come in like it was. I had I had all the leverage from jump. Because, dude, if you were happy doing what you were doing, you wouldn't be here. You know what I'm saying? So I already know that. So let's just get that out of the way. And I always told them, like, it depended on, I would read the person a lot. And sometimes we would qualify for the big time one-to-one with me. We'd go through multiple steps to get there. And there was 2 sets that we had. The one where it was really, we met in here a lot to start, just because it's an impressive room, and it usually just made people ask a lot of questions. It made them liven up a little bit. It's kind of like getting in a new car. But some people, I'd have the lights turned up as bright as they could go. You know what I mean? And and I'd raise the chair up to get above them a little bit. And then some people, it would be real dim lit, and it felt like a living room. You know what I mean? It was just based off what we need to do, because I was like, I got to get through to this person to figure out, and bringing it back to figure out, one, how we can help them, and if we can work together, if they want to work together at the end of the day. And the only way we could do that was, I knew they were going to go home and confide in somebody. And when we were recruiting insurance agents in the beginning, you always get that, yeah, man, I need to talk to my wife about this, right? And it's like, well, man, I already know that we lose, because like her job is to protect you and the family.
Well said.
And you know what I mean? It's so like, and you're not going to be able to answer all their questions. So we started playing into that. It's like, that was why we would bring them back a second time. It was because like, look, you go home and here's the stuff you need to know. Any questions on the surface, now go home and get all your wife's questions, and I'll answer them for her when you get back, and you can even write them down.
Yep.
Right. And then that was the thing though. You had that opportunity, and if I made you an offer, it wouldn't be there tomorrow. Yep. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, it's like, if I made you an offer and you truly believed, it all came down to two things. And we talked about this yesterday. Anytime we have a teammate that's not living up to their potential and doing what they said they want to do, it's like, dude, which one of these do you not believe? Do you not believe the opportunity is real, or do you not believe in yourself? It's one of the two things. I'm gonna get one.
Hell yeah, bro! You hit it twice on that one. That was really good. But it's because it's the truth.
Yeah,
and the truth resonates at the highest frequency, and it's the thing that people can't argue with. And so, but that's the reality of the situation, right? I love that you brought them in. I mean, I think that's the best way to do things, because alignment is so much more powerful than anything else.
Absolutely.
And if you get the couple aligned, how is that transforming their life?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, it's, at the end of the day, if you don't have support from home, it's really hard. It's really hard to win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're fighting out there all day long, tooth and nail, and you go home and you got to do it again, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. And I did that for a long time. And then it's amazing, when the moment I started having success, it was when my wife had my back. Like, she totally believed in everything I was doing. And then I was unstoppable.
Wow.
I was unstoppable at that moment, And, but by getting, by identifying which one of those two beliefs they actually didn't, it allowed me to solve that problem and have that breakthrough to get them. But again, just like you said, for me, it was all about, I learned how to solve that problem, because I was like, man, that person should have been here. Like, that was it. It's like, where did I lose them? How did I lose them? They should be here. So it was something that I didn't do for them. I didn't bring something out of them to get them to want to come back or be here. Right. Yeah. So I found it through them, just like, just like you were talking about before.
Yeah. What was the percentage, you think? Like, where did people arrive to?
It was almost always belief in themselves, because the track record spoke for itself. I already knew the answer, right? I already knew it. Like the last year that we were really recruiting insurance agents and whatnot, I mean, there was literally 9 figures worth of revenue and hundreds of agencies that had gone on and been successful. So I'm like, the formula works,
1,000%.
It works. So at the end, I just, I didn't know if I needed to explain them the opportunity better, or what we were doing better. But I knew at the end of the day, I believe it, the opportunity is legit. I can see the people, I can see all the pictures, I can see the videos and the photos and the success stories. Okay, so it's a belief in yourself. Well, why aren't you? Why not you? Why aren't you good enough? Why don't you believe you can have that? And people, and a lot of times it stems from where they grew up. I would flat out ask people, "What's the most amount of money you've ever made in a year?" Because they tell me, everybody says, "Yeah, I want to make 6 figures, like to start." Everybody wants to make 100 grand. Are you willing to do what it takes to have it? You know what I mean? Do you actually believe that if you do what it takes to have it, you can have it?
Right.
So like for me, that was a big thing, is figuring out what limits they had set for themselves, and are they going to sit there and fight for them, or are they ready to overcome those limits?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. 100 grand sounds like a lot until you make it.
It's nothing.
It's nothing.
So I think life and people, oh man, and YouTube, the people on YouTube roast me for this. I say it all the time. This is something that Brad and I talked about. In Nashville, Tennessee right now, raising a family, life starts at $20,000 a month.
Oh, easily.
You can make decisions for your family without saying, what's the best decision that we can afford? My kid don't deserve that. He deserves the best decision that I can make for him.
That's right. 1,000%, man. Yeah. And doing life on your terms, because there's a lot of ways to get to that number. And sometimes you get to the number and you realize, man, I solved the material plane number, but now I'm so out of alignment with my family and spiritually, what I'm called to do, what I need to do. That was my constant tension. I made the most amount of money when I was out of spiritual alignment. And so then I made the least amount of money when I was in spiritual alignment. And so now I'm doing both.
That's right.
And that's a game changer.
And I never liked having employees because like, I can't remember who told me that, but they said, dude, your boss is never going to pay you enough to live next door.
Yeah, no. Yep.
Right. And I want to have a whole street with all my people.
That's right.
As my next door neighbors.
Create an opportunity, man. 1,000%. I love that. I figured that out too, man. Like Alex Mosey just talked about this recently where he said, like as an entrepreneur, the biggest mistake that I made was hiring B people. And so he said, you don't ever understand the cost of a B person until you have A players around you. Ooh. This is why I'm talking about top grading. This is why this is so important. As a market tightens, this is the Avengers model when you're battling Thanos. When the world seems like it's going apocalyptic and everything's crashing, you better have the best damn people that you know around you. Because if not, you're going to be like Spider-Man, saving one person at a time. And guess what? At some point, you're going to be the one needing the saving. And so I think the Avengers model is so important right now that's why I tell everybody, let's do more together. People I really want to be around, let's do more together. Why? Because at some point you're going to need me or I'm going to need you.
That's right. And
if we just stay connected, we could do something that's meaningful. The rest takes care of itself.
Even NSYNC says they're better together.
Dude, we'll take it right from the NSYNC Bible right there, man.
Well,
so good.
You're 100%. You're 100% right about that. And that as a matter of fact, the Wi-Fi password here at the office is "Together we rise." You know what I mean? Because Abraham Lincoln said, "A house divided will not stand."
That's right.
So it's so important to find those like-minded people, surround yourself. It's, if as a parent, I gave a keynote about this not long ago, as a parent, if your kid's getting in trouble all the time and he's hanging out with troublemakers, say, don't hang out with that person. Right. And some people have got really mad at me for saying, I don't hang out with the people I went to high school with because we're going to two different locations. We're going to two different destinations. I still love them. And when I see them, it's great seeing them and whatnot, but I don't see them on a regular basis. I spend all my time with people who are going where I'm going.
Yeah, that's right, dude. 100%. You can't do epic shit with basic people. Can't.
It's and it's tough. You want to surround yourself with the best, and everybody would agree with that. But that was another one of the hardest things when working with these, especially the new insurance agents. I wanted to know what they were going home to.
That's right.
I was going to have to overcome that tomorrow when they got back.
Yeah, leave it at the door is a good concept, but in practicality, being an entrepreneurial leader means you have to pastor your people. You do. You got to be there for them. I love Gary Vee's principle of I work for all of them. They don't work for me.
Yeah.
And so finding that way to be supportive and to be present with them when you got your own life stuff going on, it's hard. You got to have serious capacity to run a business and to do it in a way that's going to create multipliers.
That's right.
Because you got to love on your people.
You do, man. Well, dude, I've kept you in here. I could keep you in here all day long. I know you got places to be. So dude, first of all, we're with Nick Cavuoto, the Fractional Chief Marketing Officer, folks. He's managing just shy of $2 billion with the B, and he's doing that all while working with businesses all over the place and taking many stages, right? So what are some final thoughts you'd have for the folks today? And by the way, you've got a podcast that just came out with our buddy Sean Kaplan. It's the Hope Dealer podcast, right?
Hope Dealer podcast. Yeah, man.
It's streaming everywhere.
Yeah, man, everywhere. You can find it at YouTube and everywhere else. It's really meaningful, dude. We have really meaningful conversations with people about that transition point in life when you got to the end of your rope and you're taking a licking and you got to keep on ticking and find something deep within you that's going to keep you moving in the right direction. We talk about those moments in life. It's really powerful.
So my dad used to say, he told a story. He grew up in Bakertown, Tennessee, which is, you know what I mean? So a small part that's no longer really mentioned. It's still on some maps and whatnot, but it was very old school, middle class family. And there was a guy, and I guess they were in high school, and there was a guy that was like, I'm going to whoop your butt. And my dad's buddy stepped up and said, whoa, you don't want to do that. And the guy said, what, you don't think I can whoop him? He goes, no, you probably can, but it's going to take you all day. That always stuck with me.
Dang.
So, and you'd mentioned just the resilience and overcome it. We talk about it a lot here. The difference, it's a fine line between quitting and finishing.
Yeah, dude.
And the world's full of quitters. Very, very, when you're finished, it is finished. And you know, it's an easy decision. I'm done.
Yep.
it was honestly an easy decision for me to say I was done with my baseball career. I didn't know how to prepare for the next career or even what that looked like. That was where I was lost, but I knew that that was in my rearview mirror.
Yeah, man.
And, so I didn't quit. I finished, and raising a son, and now a daughter, that's something that we talk about a lot. And, there's books called The Art of Quitting. No, it's finishing, man. It's just, we got to stop using that word.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I think that, it's funny. Bob Goff talks about this. He's like, every Thursday I quit something. And I'm like, that's actually an interesting concept, because he takes the time to intentionally stop doing something that Jordan Peterson would say, sit on your bed, one day and ask yourself the question, what incredibly stupid things am I doing that are absolutely screwing up my life?
Yeah.
And so, but it is the decision, because the quitting leads the door open to go back to it. The finishing says it's done.
That's right.
And I close it and it's over. And so I love that concept of like, what am I finished doing that I don't need to do anymore on a daily basis?
Yeah.
And just taking one day a week for literally 60 seconds and ask yourself the question.
So you met my son today.
Yeah, man, he's a good dude.
He's with me, and because we got haircuts and stuff
Come on,
to do
man.
today. So,
That's right.
Him and I made an agreement not long ago, and being a professional athlete, it's a lot like being in the Army. Like profanity, curse words were just normal words in the vocabulary. And honestly, like, they've never bothered me.
Yeah.
I don't look down on people that use those. However, what I will tell you is my son is 14.
Yeah.
And when I heard one of those words come out of that beautiful soul's mouth, it bothered me.
Yeah.
And my wife's always been on me about that. That's one thing that she's always said, you could do better. Like, she doesn't like it. She found a couple videos that were very powerful when she showed them to me about that. And again, the changing moment for me was when my son said, he said those words, and I was like, oh man,
that ain't gonna work.
That ain't gonna work. Yeah. Can't do that. So him and I made a commitment, and honestly, Coach Prime Deion Sanders was the inspiration behind it, who I love what he's doing, but he hasn't said a cuss word since college.
Wow. You wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know.
And he had, but it was a decision he made he was finished with it. Right. So I made a deal with my son. I was like, dude, we're going to have to be really honest with each other.
Yeah.
I was like, but I'm going to quit. But every time I use one, I'm going to owe you $1. I was like, and you know how I feel about my money.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was like, but you're going to owe me $1 every time you use one. So day one comes in, I'm at the office and came out and I was like, dadgummit. So, and I owned up to it. I sent him a text. I said, buddy, I owe you $1.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I owe you one too.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, cool. So
that's integrity, bro. That's cool.
Him and I have been keeping that going back and forth, but I made a decision that I didn't quit saying those words. I'm finished using those words, and we'll see how it goes. I'm excited about it. I will win.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely, man.
And it's just a matter of, at some point in time, I will be relevant enough in all the conversations that I'm having that they won't slip out anymore.
That's right.
I'll be more intentional. It's going to teach me intentionality with my words.
For sure, man. For sure. That's a powerful thing. I love that.
Well, any final thoughts for our we have the best podcast audience on planet Earth in all 50 states and even 14 different countries. I can't believe it.
That's incredible, man.
It absolutely is. What is any final thoughts for the folks? You've actually brought the noise today, baby. It's been awesome.
Yeah, dude. I appreciate you a ton, man. Thanks for having me here.
Well, what you got for him? Any final notes for him?
If you want to change the world, encourage 5 people a day. The world is starving for a sense of encouragement. It's the best thing that we can do for others. In the hardest seasons of my life, when things were the most difficult, where I couldn't find the hope to get out of the situation that I was in besides asking God for help, the thing that kept coming back was go give away the thing that you need the most. So I know that encouragement for people is like the thing that their soul is desiring. They're not going to ask for it because they don't even know they need it. But I'll tell you, man, I started doing this a few years ago, changed my life. I encourage 5 people a day. It's as simple as sending a message to someone on Instagram that you haven't talked to in a while and sending them a voice memo that says, hey, brother, I just want to let you know I see you and you're doing better than you think you are. That's huge. Taking the time to just like take a moment and send your wife that text or your friend that text or your parent that text. I even dare people, go talk to someone you haven't talked to in 10 years and 8 years and 6 years and just tell them that you're thinking about them and that you're praying for them if you're going to actually pray. If you're going to be the person who said, I'm going to send some positive vibes and do whatever you do to send positive vibes. If you want to change the world, encourage 5 people a day.
Couldn't think of a better way to bring it to a close, man.
That's it, man. I'll say one other thing about it. Last thing.
Bring it.
The reality is it doesn't change the other person as much as it changes you.
Wow.
A lot of people will do it because human behavior suggests that we're always willing to do more for others than we will for ourselves. So here's a little hint and the secret sauce behind it. We'll do it for others. And then they're so appreciative and thankful. But what we don't realize is it just changed our entire day. Right. Because what's the feedback coming to us immediately? Thank you. Your message is meaningful to me. Thank you for being somebody who believes in me. Thank you for the thing. And you're mirroring to the world what you need the most. And I believe that is like one of the primary equations of life.
There was actually this morning when I was leaving the house, it was one of the Friends reruns was on a screen. Yeah. And the episode where Phoebe challenged them to find a selfless good deed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, but that what you just said made you feel good too, right? Like that's the thing. So one of the ways you can feed yourself is by serving others.
Serving others always comes back to that.
That's so powerful. The Hit Streak is powered by Rack Financial. When it comes to your credit card merchant processing, Rack Financial is efficient, reliable, and trusted. At the end of the day, when it comes to processing your credit card payments, they make it simple, the way it's supposed to be. Check out Rack Financial. Everything you got going on is on your website, right?
Yeah, nickcavuoto.com or just at Nick Cavuoto on any type of social or anything. And I always give out my phone number for people to call me or text me. It's blue text. So I tell people straight up, I'm like, you can call me or text me. I'm going to pick up the phone. 303-249-5002. I tell people, hit me up. Because why? Accessibility is an interesting thing in the world that we live in today. The people we want the access to the most are typically unreachable. And I just think there's something wrong with that. I'm like, why? If I have capacity to do what God called me to do, I'm not going to waste a second trying to not have the opportunity to do that.
That's right.
So at some point I'll, hit up Gary and be like, yo, I need one of those shirts that has my phone number on it. But for now, I always give it out to people and I tell them like, a lot of people don't take me up on it. So they won't. And the ones who do are like, I can't believe that you actually picked up and I can't believe you invested in my life in this way. And I'm like, hey, listen, that's my goal. Encourage 5 people a day. So if I can do it, I'm not only going to speak it, I'm going to do it. And that's how I'll leave it to it right there.
And it makes it a lot easier for you to accomplish your mission because you're not making it hard to find the people. You're not saying, well, who do I got to find today? Like they're finding you. You've enabled them a way to find you.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely.
That's powerful. Awesome. Let me make sure that you guys spell his name right. Again, nickcavuoto.com. That's NickCavuoto.com. All of his socials is at Nick Cavuoto. And obviously these are all in the show notes and everything else, right? But for those guys listening, pull over first if you're in the car and then go on and follow him on all those socials. I'm excited for the podcast. When this episode airs, it will have been out shortly. And man, you guys, it's going to be dynamite because Sean's dynamite too.
Dude, yeah, I'm so grateful. Sean Copland's been a huge blessing in my life. He's been a brother, man. So I'm so grateful, for the people in Nashville. People in Nashville, the best people in town, man. I'm telling you, like this place is the best place I've ever lived.
Well, I'm looking forward to doing some stuff with you myself.
Oh yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Too, bro.
Absolutely. Anything else, Nick?
Nah, man. Just go out and make today the best day of your life. That's what my mentor told me to do every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, folks, we've been hanging with the man himself, Nick Cavuoto, nickcavuoto.com on all socials at Nick Cavuoto. Man, check him out on a stage near you. He's coming. Check out the podcast, the Hope Dealer podcast, streaming on all digital platforms, video on YouTube as well. All the things, yes, right? All the things. Well, thanks a lot, man. This has been killer, brother. It's been
Thank
killer.
You, man. Much love. Appreciate you.
Well, folks, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of The Hit Streak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.